Nestled among the growing subdivisions of Rochester Hills is the quaint 19th century Stoney Creek Village. Settled in 1823, Stoney Creek is home to several of Oakland County's oldest and most well-preserved homes. Listed on the National Register of Historic Places, the village is one of the few reminders of the county's pioneer history. In 1823, 31-year-old Elijah Taylor loaded up the wagons and brought his 60 family members on a journey from upstate New York to the territory of Michigan. Within 30 years, Stoney Creek Village had grown to become one of the largest communities in Oakland County, boasting 3 mills, a tavern, a Baptist church, a post office, and a blacksmith shop. The Taylor family moved here for its rich natural resources: water power, rich land, rolling hills, forests, and favorable growing conditions. Commodities in high demand for at least 12,000 years. People started coming into the peninsulas of the Great Lakes soon after the Ice Age glaciers receded. The abundance of water created by the convergence of the Paint Creek, Stoney Creek, and the Clinton River offered easy transportation and fueled long-distance trade. Different groups have been migrating here and calling this place home ever since. Many people in Michigan today identify as descendants of the Algonquian, Ojibwa, Potawatomi, and other tribes. By the time the Taylors arrived in Stoney Creek, most Native Americans had been forcefully removed from the region by way of the Detroit Treaty of 1807, their land forfeited in exchange for reservations. Stripped of their legal land holdings, the Native Americans still held land use rights, such as hunting, and can be seen in the scant records of early pioneer life. The same waters that Native Americans used for transportation by canoe, the settlers harnessed for power. As mill races diverted the babbling currents, business and industry began to flourish in Stoney Creek Village. Sawmills, grist mills, and wool carding mills established a foundation for the community. Right down the street from robust Stoney Creek was the village of Rochester. Settled in 1817 by the Graham family, it only surpassed Stoney Creek Village in its importance with the introduction of the railroad. Lysander Woodward helped to establish the Detroit and Bay City Railroad in 1871. Its first tracks laid through Rochester in 1872. The Michigan Air Line Railway was organized in 1875, later known as the Grand Trunk Western. Running an east-west course, it traveled from Romeo to Rochester in 1879 and to Pontiac by 1880. These railroads significantly helped local farmers expand and distribute business products. The first train car to pass by Stoney Creek Village, however, was the lightweight electric railway, commonly known as the Interurban. Designed to run at least 6 times a day in the summer, this public transport swept residents to Detroit to enjoy a theatrical performance or catch a train out of state. Urban dwellers took advantage as well, visiting the countryside for respite and health. The short-lived Detroit Interurban shut down in 1931, but by then, the Van Hoosen family farm was flourishing under the direction of Dr. Sarah Van Hoosen Jones. Dr. Sarah Van Hoosen Jones received the family farm as a graduation gift from her grandmother, Sarah Taylor Van Hoosen. Over the years, the property operated under various names. Her grandfather, Joshua Van Hoosen, called the farm Springbrook in the late 1800s. At the turn of the century, tenant farmer Frank Barnett ran the business as Stonyhurst. It wasn't until Sarah took over that she named it Van Hoosen Farms, serving local neighbors as well as hospitals and schools in Detroit. By the early 1900s, the dairy farm was the heart of the village. In return for farm labor, employees received a furnished home to live in, fuel from fallen trees, milk, garden vegetables, potatoes, and apples from the orchard. Wages were never high, but sufficient for groceries, clothing, and fuel. Anywhere from 3 to 10 families worked for the Van Hoosens at a time. Over the years, Stoney Creek Village welcomed many guests. Residents of Detroit found solace in visiting the countryside, often stopping by Sarah's store. Known as the sign of the black and white cow, it was open 362 days a year, closed only on Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's Day. There, they could purchase not only farm fresh dairy and eggs, but homemade goods to devour, such as jam, ice cream, hot chocolate, orange sherbet, or shop for local gifts and furniture handmade by local villagers. Professional organizations found a warm embrace at the front door of the Van Hoosen farmhouse as Alice, Bertha, and Sarah welcomed area meetings and gatherings of the Rochester Business Women's Club, Rochester Garden Club, Daughters of the American Revolution, and even the Holstein Breeders Association picnic. Sarah herself was an active volunteer in many, even serving as president on the same school board as her grandfather. In fact, it was one of these organizations, the Questers, that led the charge and helped to preserve this historic property for future generations. Today, most of Stoney Creek Village homes are private residences. At the edge of the village is a community theater, Avon Players. The current building was built in 1964, thanks to the generously cheap sale of the land by Sarah Van Hoosen Jones. Sarah also provided land for a second cemetery, recognizing the growing community would soon overrun the capacity. Stoney Creek Cemetery, the old pioneer plot that her mother Alice diligently helped care for. The city of Rochester Hills recognized this generous gift by naming it on her behalf, the Van Hoosen Jones Stoney Creek Cemetery. The Van Hoosen Farm, barns, and farmhouse, the Stoney Creek Schoolhouse, the Red House, reside on 16 acres of public land that compose the Rochester Hills Museum at Van Hoosen Farm. Years of renovation and maintenance has allowed this nationally registered historic site to shine in its rightful glory. Ongoing community fundraising and generous support from the City of Rochester Hills has allowed the Van Hoosen Farm buildings to be adaptively reused to serve our growing community. Support for the museum comes from the continued connections, collaborations, and memories that are forged every year in Stoney Creek Village. Whether stopping by for summer camps, school field trips, holiday programs, or simply enjoying the beautiful grounds and gardens, the park offers an escape from everyday life. A backdrop for high school dance photos, the setting for a radiant, rustic outdoor wedding, the perfect baseball field. Stoney Creek Village is a place that celebrates the many walks of life. The natural resources brought people to this little spot of land 200 years ago, and these resources continue to contribute to our thriving community today.